This is eCommerce Uncensored. Brought to you by Fast Forward Unlimited. We're coming to you fully loaded and exposed with all the strategies and techniques for growing your e-commerce business.
Hey, and welcome to episode number 45 of eCommerce Uncensored. I am Kevin Manel, and I'm here with
Jason Caruso
and
All True.
Today we're coming with another edition of our question and answers, and Paul's here to just throw some at us, so we're gonna just
Q&A?
get right into it.
Q&A, baby?
Q&A, baby.
All right, Q&A. Q number 1. How can I prevent my customers from unsubscribing?
Ooh, I like this one. I'm guessing from your email list?
Unsubscribing from email, yeah.
Yeah.
What else would it be? I guess a membership
I don't
site
know.
or a subscription-based?
It could be for anything, really.
That's a good question then, Jason.
It is a good question. Because, this is very interesting, Paul, that you asked this question, because we just did a video for Facebook, and I think I spoke about this. When I first started building my email list, like years ago, for my baking blog, I was so worried about people leaving, right? It's I took it personally, why would 100 people unsubscribe today? At this time, we had 40,000 people on the list, so 100 people was actually a small amount, but still 100 people. Why, But as I've sort of been around it more, been around email marketing a little bit more, since since I've been seeing what's happening with other people, and I've sort of realized that you want people to leave, right? You want the people that aren't engaged to leave. And it sounds crazy but people covet their email list, and they, without realizing that if someone's not engaged in your stuff, they're not going to buy, right? So the way I looked at it is if I have 40,000 people on my email list, if I got to 100,000 people, I'd have to pay the email provider platform more money, right? So if I'm spending more money with the email provider or I'm spending money for people who aren't engaged, who aren't buying, then they're costing me money, right? So I always thought of it if you're going to leave, you're doing me a favor, because not only are you, removing yourself, or removing someone who is unengaged, but you're also helping me sort of prune my list, right? I want the most engaged people.
Yeah, we were talking about this yesterday with a new client of ours, and they're actually starting their first email campaign with us, and we're sending out a welcome email, and we're kind of introducing people to the fact that they're going to be getting emails. And part of our email is actually, hey, if you don't want this, or if this isn't your thing, then unsubscribe right now, and here's the link to do it. Because that's another part of it too, is you don't want people who aren't ready for your email or aren't interested in it. They might be more willing to hit spam or mark it as spam or something like that, which can hurt your list as well. So if you present them with the opportunity to unsubscribe and kind of get rid of them, for lack of a better term, you're better off in the long run. You have a healthier list, and going forward, you're just in better shape and more engaged people. And another thing I would say is have a list that's authentic and organically built from the ground up, so they're people, you didn't go out and buy it from somewhere, because that's definitely where you're going to get a lot of unsubscribes right away, where people never even heard of you because you bought a list somewhere from who knows where.
Yeah, and now that doesn't mean that, there are going to be people who unsubscribe who are interested in your stuff, so that there's another side to this, to answer the question a little bit more directly. How do you keep those people? So out of the 100 people that unsubscribe from my list, there are probably, a quarter of them who really want to be on it, but they didn't want, 5 emails a week, or they didn't like the content I was sending, or whatever. To save those people, what I always like to do is, or I always like to say is don't just send emails to send them. Send as many as you like, but make sure there's a purpose for them, right? A purpose that's going to serve the person who's opening the email, right? So if I see some people creating these email automations that they just think just emailing people, it's they're doing something, but really you could be hurting things in that scenario. So just make sure you have a purpose that is going to serve the person who's potentially opening it, and you'll find that people will unsubscribe at a much lower rate.
Yeah, one other thing we talk about is congruency between a subject line and a body of the email. Because if you try to trick someone into opening an email with a tricky subject line and they get in there and it's not what they were expecting, that's another way that people are likely to unsubscribe because they feel deceived in some way. So
yeah,
that's just one added thing that I thought I'd throw in there.
That's definitely true, and we talk about that a lot about using curiosity subject lines, and we can go on about this forever, but make sure that your subject line is matching the body of the email. So if you're selling cars, you can't say something like we're giving a free truck away. All you have to do is reply to this email, and they open up the email and it's like has to do with like you trying to sell a little car, a car part or something. Like you can't do that. There needs to be some congruency between the subject line and the actual email.
Right on.
All right, cue number 2. Is it better to get into an industry or niche that is already established, or one that is relatively new and does not have much competition?
Yeah, I think we talk about this quite a bit, actually. We talk about when we talk about people getting into or starting a business or an e-commerce store, where they should start. And, it's a tough one, I think, because we do say a lot that, if you can get a small piece of a bigger industry, it might be an easier way in than trying to find your own niche and trying to, start something from scratch. With something that's built up, that's already established, they have some history, that people are buying, and that kind of thing. So that's a tough one. I mean, I don't know what you think, Jay, but...
Yeah, I mean, I think... So we just went through this with our food blog, course. It's a long and expensive road to try to create a market. We learned that the hard way. We actually... I used to have a food blog. It was a really successful one. If you haven't read or listened to our previous podcasts, I've talked about it before. And I tried to teach people how to replicate our success, and there really isn't a market for it. People want to create food blogs, but it's not like they're actively looking to become a food blogger. And it's a very long road. It's a lot of work, and most people aren't willing to do it. So that being said, we tried to force something to happen. Now, if we had millions of dollars to just, spend on marketing it and getting it out to people, then I think that, over time it would have worked. But, for most of us, we don't have millions and millions of dollars to spend. I would personally say that it's smarter to find products that are selling and just try to find or try to create or try to get a similar product and try to sell it, because it's just much easier to make that happen. Then later on, if you want to build a brand, if you want to come up with your own products, if you want to, source your own stuff, then you can do that. But initially, we always see people coming to us with these products that they don't even know if somebody's going to buy. It's like, it's so hard to make that happen. Everybody loves their product, but it doesn't mean the market's going to love it. So me personally, I think it's easier to take a product and improve upon it, or take a product that's selling already and make your version of it, than it is to sort of create your own market for something. It's just very difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can start off with something that's hot, that's selling, that's a big industry. If you're really passionate about a new line of products that you want to bring to market, I mean, you could just start with something that's already out there, that's already selling, and it can almost, fund the possibility of building a new brand or a new line of products in that way. So I think it's always best to try to go where there's already a market. I mean, we always talk about, testing the market before you actually just dive into a big investment. So the easiest way to do that is just look at things that are already selling.
Absolutely.
All right, last one. What are the excuse me? What are the proper ways to evaluate the success of a campaign?
Well, it's kind of broad. There's a lot of different types of campaigns. There's email campaigns. There's social media campaigns. Marketing campaigns. There are a lot of different kinds of campaigns, but really, I think what we do this a lot is we try to like break it up into pieces. So we try to break it up like, okay, for email, like what's our open rate, what's our click-through rates? For advertising, what's our click-through rates, what's our conversion rates, and we try to break it down into pieces, and we try to determine whether or not it's acceptable for the campaign that we're running. So I think it depends. I mean, if you can break even or be a little profitable on whatever you're doing, then that's a good kind of litmus as to whether the campaign is working or not. But you really have to break it down and come up with some sort of like benchmarks to what you're doing. It's kind of like a hard question to answer.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's different levels to a campaign. I think what Jason's trying to say is that a success at one level may not mean success at another. So we have campaigns running, say, on social media that are getting good clicks, they're getting good click-through rates, they're getting good relevancy scores. So at that level, it almost looks successful. But in the end, it's like, okay, the product's not selling. So what the hell? So you got to look at it in levels like that. So, okay, the ad's working, people are clicking, but then there's a landing page where people go to that, okay, there's something wrong there. And it's actually a product that people are buying. It's out there, so we know people want it. It's just something along the line of the campaign is broken a little bit that we just need to work on. And then you have, the whole checkout procedures and things like that as well. So it goes in stages, I think.
Yeah, and different people are going to define success in different ways. I mean, our clients, all of them, they all define success in ROI, in profit. For us, that's not the only indicator, obviously, because, you can improve upon your numbers along the way, and which will change the economics of the campaign. But for us, we can't just look at ROI because that's not really giving us a clear picture of what's going on, right? Like, you can have something that, like a campaign that most of it's working, and then you get to the part of like, okay, well, it's not profitable. Like, you can't just say, okay, let's just throw it away. Right. It's like, let's figure out how to make it profitable. What other products can we introduce into the campaign? Is there a different angle? We just had one of our clients who listens to us often, who we just talked about creating a video, right? Like a video ad. We don't have a video ad right now. We have other clients that we're sending to blog posts that the campaign is like working tremendously, but they're a bigger company and they don't, for them, success is just a little bit different than, being granular like we are. So it's just really, you got to it depends on who you're talking to, depends on what your goals are, depends on,
Yeah, I think success is a hard thing for some people to grasp in a certain sense. For a long-term success of a campaign or a business, really we feel like customer acquisition is really the number one thing that people should be focused on. And if you can get to that point, acquire a customer for little to no costs, the long-term value of that customer is much more than the ROI that you're going to get on that first, that first
right, but you need
transaction.
To know what I think that's the challenge with newer businesses. It's like you don't have that data. You don't know how much people are going to spend over time. You don't know that. So like the client is investing their money, and it's hard.
Yeah, you gotta have a vision for that lifetime value of a customer.
And you gotta be able to afford it. You gotta be able to afford it. I mean, people don't want to just throw away money. So it's, really, I know we're kind of went all over the place with that, but I really just think it depends on what you're measuring and what your your tolerance.
Yeah, it can be a tough road. I mean, to swallow all the losses, the testing, the amount of money you're investing to get these customers. So we understand, when customers have a hard time understanding that they're paying for these customers, and it's a long-term goal that we're always striving for, and it will get there. It just takes some time.
Yeah, and some people don't want to go on that road with you. I mean, that's, you know, we had somebody tell us that once too. He's like,
Yeah.
I don't want to go on that road. You're like, all right, well, you know, it's not our product. We don't, you know,
There's no magic, right?
Right,
We always say it. There's not a magic wand. So if you don't want to be on the what did you call it?
Well, no, I mean, on the ride. I basically, you know, we're like, look, you know, this. If we figure this out, it's potentially worth millions and millions of dollars to your business. I don't know why you wouldn't want to go on the road. This client in particular clearly has the money. I mean, it's not like they are a startup. They've been around for many, many years, and they're multi-million-dollar company. I mean, upwards of $50 million at one point. So it's like they had the money, so it was just kind of, you know.
But we,
anyway.
we understand too. I mean, we went on the ride. We took a ride.
We did.
And, it didn't turn out how we expected, but we learned a lot. And, sometimes that happens.
Actually, he's still with us, though.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, he came back. Well, yeah.
He came back.
So.
Everybody comes back.
You got to be willing to lose them to keep them sometimes.
You're right. Who are you, and what did you do with Kevin?
I'm a changed man.
Yeah. Anyway. All right, guys. We were all over the place with that one, but I think it was fun.
Yeah, that was a great one.
That was fun.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
Appreciate the questions.
Paulie Chew.
No problem.
And you guys can review all the Q&A on our podcast notes at eCommerceUncensored.com. And we'll talk at you guys next time.
We'll talk at you.
Again, talk at you. Yeah. Talk at you, talk with you.
Talk to you.
All that. All those things. All right, talk to you soon.
Later.
Adios.